Hi guys, welcome back to another video. Welcome back to my channel. So guys, really this is a very unforgettable tragedy to be remembered, uh, involving K2 Airways flight KTA1732 bound from Sharjah to Karachi, carrying 5 crew on board, which unexpectedly crashed at Arabian Sea. And the scale of this crash is very unimaginable based on the media sources releasing new pictures of the wreckage which was found by the Pakistan Navy, and including the data, whatever we are getting so far, the moments before the impact. So to understand that, we are going to have a deep dive analysis on the sequence of events, on what really exactly caused this deadliest crash of K2 Airways flight KTA 1732. So without further ado guys, let's get started right away. Alright guys, so as you can see on my screen, so this is the K2 Airways Boeing 737-400. Interestingly, this particular airframe was converted from passenger variant to freighter variant. So they usually designate it as 737-400 BDSF. Right. So the aircraft involved in this tragedy was registered as Alpha Papa Bravo Oscar India, with its MSN registered as 29210. And this 737-400 was powered by two CFM56-3C1 engines with its thrust range between 18,000 to 23,000 pounds of force. Right. Speaking about the engine types, 737-400 is a mid variant within the 737 family, right? So this CFM56-3C1 engines are equipped not only in the 400 variant but also in the 737-300 and 737-500 respectively, right? So speaking about the airframe age, well, it's over 27.5 years old, which is a very old airframe indeed. And coming to its airframe history, well, this aircraft was first delivered to Russia's national carrier called as Aeroflot back in 1999 under a lease agreement with Irish leasing company called as GCAS. Then in 2004, Garuda Indonesia also been operated under a leasing agreement with GCAS. Those two were operated as a passenger variant until in 2011, when GCAS owned this airframe, so they started converting from passenger variant to freighter variant. So from 2011 onwards, this cargo variant is now being operated with various airlines like TNT Express and FedEx. And then K2 Airways bought this aircraft from AirCab, which is a leasing company, in 2024. Right. So speaking about the airline's history of K2 Airways, so K2 Airways was founded just 2 years ago, which is back in 2024, and this is the only aircraft which was operating it, and it is about to grow up soon. But however, since they want to start the cargo operations in Pakistan, so that's why they wanted to start the operations with the leasing. So they took this aircraft from the Dutch leasing company AirCab, which I already told you. So this is the only airframe that K2 Airways was operating in. Alright, so now let's get into the Flight Radar 24 data based on the sequence of events, what was recorded, and let's see what clues we may find out there. So let's dive into it. Alright guys, so as you can see on my screen, on the left side is the Flight Radar 24 data for the K2 Airways flight KTA 1732, and on the right side is the SimBrief map. So interestingly to say guys, that I used SimBrief map to accurately verify whether the K2 Airways flight KTA 1732 followed its waypoints with respect to the sim brief flight path here. So to do that, we are going to focus board comparisons of FR24 route as well as the sim brief route simultaneously with each checkpoints, right? So let's go to it. Zooming in towards Sharjah International Airport here. So let's play the data. So exactly at 3:01 UTC, K2 Airways flight KTA1732 took off from Sharjah Airport via runway 30. And you can see this pattern right here. So this is a GPS jamming interference going on here. So all because of the ongoing conflict between the US and Iran here at the Strait of Hormuz. And interestingly to say, guys, that I already shared my thoughts about the Strait of Hormuz impacts in aviation sector. So you can check that video in my description below. Right. So let's zoom in here. So the first half of the flight looks to be, well, till here it's GPS jammed, but the rest of the flight, well, after crossing the UAE, let's see here. So initial climb, ground speed at 412 knots, altitude, well, it looks fine, no problem at all. So their target cruising altitude was at 35,000 feet. But now first let's verify the waypoint intersections with respect to SimBrief data. So let's zoom in and let's focus on this boundary here. So this is where Khor Fakkan is. This is Khor Fakkan here on the left on FR24. This is Khor Fakkan here on the right on SimBrief. So if you look at this pattern here, so you can clearly interpretly to say that it is exactly matched. So it has intersected towards waypoint Kusen, and then it went to waypoint Laldo, and then next waypoint will be proceeding towards Natso. So that means if you look into this pattern and if you look into this pattern here, so it is exactly following the same pattern here. So it means that it is well accurately mapped. So let's play. So well, she's cruising in still, and let's roll forward. So they were cruising up at 35,000 feet at the Arabian Sea, right? So after 1 hour since its departure, and as this aircraft was cruising through Arabian Sea, the pilots on board the K2 Airways noticed something very unusual, which is the malfunctioning of its navigation system. So this episode, which started approximately somewhere over here, my guess is, I can't say that it is accurate, but this is my guess here. So where this problem started is somewhere near to the checkpoints between Sitka and Lakiv. So this is the Gwadar port, which you can see here on the left, and this is the Gwadar port right here, and this is the Ormara district here, right? So in between these two waypoints, somewhere here, I think the pilots have informed to ATC saying that we are facing navigation issues or a technical malfunction in the navigation systems. So let's play the clip again here in FR24. So exactly as the aircraft reached near to the checkpoint Lakif, so you can see that right here. Let me zoom out to give you a little clarity to you guys. So this is checkpoint Lakif, This is Ormara here. Let me zoom out a bit to give you a clarity. Look at the pattern, guys. You can clearly see here. Look at this pattern. Okay, so it is almost near to the checkpoint Lakir where this episode started. So the plane suddenly went towards right, and then look at this. Exactly at 4:17 p.m. UTC, the plane suddenly descended at first hand towards the right side, and look at the descent rate. So again, yeah, just right over here. So from 35,000 feet, again it descended to 34,000 feet, and then look at the descent rate. It's still descending, 13,000, then 14,000. Vertical speed, descent rate is unbelievable, and then reached to 31,000 feet, and then it still continuously descending up till 29,000 feet. So it seems like unknowingly that the plane descended to the right at 13,000 feet per minute descent rate from 35,000 feet to 29,000 feet, which is very unusual. That is a one mystery up there. And then strangely the plane suddenly climbed up like this. So I think at this particular moment, somewhere I think the pilots were struggling to maneuver the aircraft. Maybe it's because of the navigation system was malfunctioning or what. I cannot certainly sure, but those were the media reports which were claimed there. But the maneuvering of the aircraft itself, you could see that it is indeed very unusual there. So interestingly, it climbed up, reaching till 36,000 feet, and then after reaching towards that highest altitude at 36,000 feet, it again descended from 36,000 feet with 14,500 descent rate per minute. Again, it's going on, and until it reached out to 22,000. Oh my goodness, this is unbelievable. If you look at this clip right here, let me rewind it again to give you exactly once again how it started. So the first unusual thing started just right here at 4:18 UTC. So the plane was at 35,000 feet. It went down like this towards the right side. So the plane banked to right as per the FR24 right here near to checkpoint Lakib. Once again, I'm showing it to you. You can see this pattern here. Okay, so the plane descended to the right. It descended from 35,000 feet, reached up to 29,000 feet at 13,500 feet descent rate, which is first unusual point, which I already told you. Then again, it climbed up. Look at the vertical speed. So it seems like the pilots were pulling the yoke upwards to pull the aircraft. That something went unusually wrong. So at that particular vertical speed, you could clearly see that something really happened right there. So it climbed up very, I'm speechless to say, guys, that this is really, really, I have no words to say that this is really a horrible, horrible crash. So it went near to a stall and then it descended rapidly. Unbelievable, guys, unbelievable. At 22,400 descent rate means uh, obviously the aircraft would disintegrate. It will break up into pieces at that rate of descent. And surprisingly, the wreckage was found by the Pakistan Navy. And if you look into those pictures too, you could clearly see that it's broken into n number of pieces. So it's an unsurvivable at the last minute. So in short, guys, I should say that a plane started descending at 13,000 feet per minute from 35,000 to 29,000 feet, and then it climbed up very sharply up from 29,000 feet and then till 36,000 feet, and that too at 18,000 rate of ascent, like this. And then afterwards, once it reached near to the stall, and then the plane spiraled down at a very rapid descent rate, which was last recorded at 22,400 vertical speed. Once again, guys, I should say this is not a survivable moment, especially at this vertical speed. So now the real question rises is that what went wrong with the aircraft's navigation system? So to understand this, a very, very horrible tragedy, this reminds me back on 2007, January, New Year's Day, involving Arab Air Flight 574, which was bound from Surabaya to Manado, carrying 102 passengers on board. So Arab Air at that time, it was an Indonesia's startup airline. So this flight was actually cruising into a very turbulent weather. Right. So what happened was that during that flight, the pilots noticed very unusual alarm that there was a malfunction in the inertial reference system. So what do you mean by inertial reference system, or ADIRS, also called as Air Data Inertial Reference System? So inertial reference system is also a part of a navigation system where they use laser gyroscopes and accelerometers to pinpoint its position of the aircraft, what's the aircraft speed, what's the aircraft's altitude, and all these data will be fetched into the flight management system. So when you are cruising via autopilot mode, so the flight management system gets information via inertial reference system, where I have already told you that it gives all details about this aircraft position, what's the aircraft speed, and what's the aircraft's altitude. So everything will be controlled in the FMS via autopilot configuration. So when pilots noticed that unusual error in the IRS system, so they started troubleshooting the system while during the flight, that too in a very turbulent weather. So in that case, what happened was suddenly, very unusually, the plane started rolling to the right side, the autopilot got disconnected, and the pilots were not even aware that the autopilot was disconnected. And even though you know that when you're flying on a turbulent weather, there is no visibility at all. You can't see the horizon at all. You should rely on the instruments. So at that chain of events, you know, nobody could even figure it out exactly what was happening, that too in a fraction of a second. Right. So they are still fixing the IRS system while they are on flight, even though the autopilot got disengaged, the plane was rolling right side and then went into a steep descent. And pilots later realized it was too little too late, and ultimately it crashed nosedive, killing all 102 passengers. So at that time, the investigation revealed that it was all because of the pilot error, specifically on the lack of situation awareness, and more importantly, even the technical side also, there was a malfunction in the IRS system also played a role in the crash. But in the case of the K2 Airways flight 1732's case, well, again, the only thing you can exclude is the weather, because if you can check at the skies over uh, the Arabian Sea, you can check the weather data also, that it's all clear and there's no storm presence right there. So it was a normal cruising flight at the time of the crash. So it seems to me that could the inertial reference system malfunction played a key role in the K2 Airways crash, which is what I'm a bit suspicious right there. Why? Because since this aircraft was, like I told you previously, that it was a passenger version, and then when they converted into a freighter version, they usually don't not only change the fuselage of the aircraft, but including the avionics too. So maybe were the old components still used, or were they upgraded, is what I cannot verify that. Or is the IRS system is still usable, or is it replaced with a very modern system, modern avionics, which is what, again, I must say in this case, when the pilots on K2 Airways mentioned that there was a malfunction in the navigation system, it could mean that whether this IRS system malfunction or what is what, I cannot say in this case, but it's all up to the investigators to verify the exact cause of the crash. Additionally, when you are talking about the GPS jamming here, again, I can't say that it is GPS jamming here, but see, GPS jamming can only happen specifically in the war zone. You can take a zoom in right here at Sharjah airspace itself. You can clearly see this pattern. This is the GPS jamming. But at the last moments before the crash here, you can't even say this is a GPS jamming at all. The only thing is that when they mentioned that it was the navigation system malfunction, that means that it could be either an IRS system, which I already told you, that could be a very possible factor here. Because in the case of the Arab Air flight 574, when they detected that error of the IRS system malfunction, so again, it could be a possibility. I can't say it conclusively, as I told you before, not like an assumption, but it is a possibility here. So I think we have to wait and see what's going to happen next with the preliminary report, which will take a 1 month or 2 months time until everything is well gathered, which obviously I've already told you about the recovery operations by the Pakistan Navy, recovering the remains of the K2 Airways aircraft, and as well as the crew. But as of now, they say that the 5 crew members on board are still missing. But again, by looking at the pictures of the wreckage, you can clearly say that there's obviously no survivors. So once again, guys, well, I must say that this is really, really the worst crash I have never imagined, especially this reading, 22,400 vertical speed. That reading I will never forget. It was so unbelievable, guys. I will never forget this, ever. So my thoughts and condolences to the crew on board K2 Airways flight KTA1732, and like I said before, let's wait for the investigation to get even further details exactly what really happened there. So that's it, guys. So this is my take on the sequence of events on KTA Airways flight 1732. So thank you so much for watching this video. Please like and subscribe to my channel, and we'll see you again in the next one.